Hello guys, my name is Felipe. I'm 19 years of age. I'm from Brazil and I'm a computer science student at the Federal University of Uberlândia. And this is very exciting. This is my very first ever YouTube video. And I'm gonna be doing something very simple but that I find so important, and this is tips and talking in general about learning a new language. In my case, I did it mostly with English. I just started very recently to study another one, which is French, but I'm still in the very beginning, so that's why I'm doing this in English. And the first thing that I want to talk about, and I think it's so vital, even though it's not something new, it's not something you never heard about, you actually may be talking about it every single day, but I choose to emphasize it here because I feel like there is still a lot of misconception, there is still a lot of misinformation about it, which is motivation. And I find that so freaking important because no, unfortunately, discipline is not more important than motivation, of course, because there is no discipline without motivation. That's just how the brain works, you know. Our brains are very good at doing things that are gonna reward us in a certain level, in a certain degree. That's why you doom scroll to social media all day, maybe, because your brain is actually getting rewards from it. You're not doing it like just for doing it, you know. Our brains we don't just choose to do something for nothing. We spend energy, so it's probably waiting for a reward. And this is totally related to motivation. So, like an example, when I was studying to get into uni, I had very clear motivations in my head, and this is exactly the tip I want to give you guys. It is that you need to keep, first of all, you need to think about your motives for action. Ask yourself that and remember it as many times as you need every day, because even a very small thing, which for example, I really want to read this book, I only can find it in English, maybe it's a PDF online, maybe there is not even a translation for it yet, so you really want to read it. And so that's something that one may think, oh, it's actually small, it is a small motive, but not actually. That can actually lead you throughout the day, that can make you go through the day of learning, which is very, very important, because not all the motives need to be big, you know. But I also want to talk about, of course, these big motives, this big motivation, which is also very important. And I want to talk about this feeling that I heard once from the author Robert Greene. I don't know if you ever heard of him. He's a very famous author. I actually have a book of his, and that he wrote in. And the feeling goes as follows. It is to feel the devil at your heels, meaning that you have this deep, deep necessity of to get done whatever it is that you're doing. Like, for example, Robert himself felt when he was in France and actually didn't know any French, despite having studied it in university in the US. So he felt like he didn't have any other way out, you know. It was learn or go back home, and because he would starve, he wouldn't get a job, he wouldn't get a girlfriend. So that's a very important thing, and it is very deeply related to the second thing that I want to talk about, And that's something that really worked for me, even though I didn't think about that specifically at the time when I was learning the most English, when I was the most beginner, which is to pick something that you really like, something that you really can get obsessed over with. In my case, it was chess. I really loved chess. I was playing it a lot. I was even competing in high school. I played some tournaments. I was playing online anytime I could. And when I was not playing or doing anything else, I was actually watching some YouTube guy teach something about chess, or maybe just seeing news about it, you know. And I think that's very cool. And one thing that's quite important about that, and that makes it very helpful to learn, to make us learn a new language, it is the fact that it is visual, you know, because there are levels in which we learn. So you can learn just watching something, maybe watch a professor say something, watch a lecture, maybe just listen to a lecture. But there is this place where you can watch something that's also being done, that's also being illustrated, like in chess, since it's a board game. At the same time that the person is talking about it and teaching, he's drawing something, he is moving pieces. So you can map what you're hearing to what you're seeing, and that's very important. And I think that I learned a lot of English doing that, because since I liked it so much, I didn't bother with going on to watch a 20 minute video on chess and just like understanding maybe 5 minutes of that, or even less at the beginning, at the very beginning. And that didn't bother me at all, because I really liked it, and I was really motivated to be able to understand a whole video on chess, and a native English speaker trying to teach people more chess. And I wanted to be able to do that, not only for my English, but also for the fact that I wanted to get better at the game. So I was just watching and reading things over and over and over again, like understanding 10% of the video, and then some days later or maybe weeks later I was understanding a little bit more. And every time that I was watching the same video over again, I was researching new words, you know. Oh, there's actually this one that I don't know. It's a very interesting thing to also talk about, and can go as a bonus tip, because actually a family member of mine once asked, like, how do you deal with that situation where you're not really understanding much and you have to stop and search the word on a dictionary or at Google, in Google. And I just usually say, like, first of all, if you really are motivated, and if you really like this thing that you're studying, that you're looking about, that's not gonna be that hard, you know. You're gonna feel like it's easier to do compared to something that you really don't really like. But the thing is, you can't bother about this not understanding thing, you know. It's like, it's so freaking normal to me. Like, you go watch a lecture, maybe you go watch a lecture in Portuguese, and it's a philosophy lecture or a math lecture. Even though it's in your language, it's in your mother language, you're not gonna understand everything. Maybe depending on the topic, you're not gonna understand any of it. maybe a calculus class, maybe a philosophy class, you're not gonna understand any of it. Sometimes I was actually I was talking about it with a friend of mine yesterday about this language thing. Sometimes you listen to a song in Portuguese and don't even understand what they're saying. So how do you expect yourself to listen to a song in English or any other language and just understand everything, or maybe go watch a YouTube video on this topic that you like and expect to understand everything? That doesn't exist. Of course, when I was saying about not understanding a lecture at the Portuguese level, it is that maybe you're not understanding the semantics about it. You know, you understand the language, but you don't understand what the person wants to say. And that's, of course, also something that's gonna come with experience when we're talking not only in Portuguese but about other languages. So if you grab something that you really like, that you can get obsessed over with, then you're gonna be really motivated to continuing to keep doing that thing, and it's not gonna feel that bad not understanding. So you can keep doing it over and over again